Jackson channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking about Netflix's Asterix and Obelix, The Big Fight. Now originally I actually thought this was a movie, and then I realized it was a mini series. I now understand why it was a mini series rather than a movie, because if you add up the episodes, it's kind of like close to 3 hours, I think, like 2.5 hours ish. I think for a movie, especially an Asterix and Obelix kind of movie, that's a little bit too long. So I kind of get why they did that. I went into it expecting the worst, because I did the review for the Plantain movie, and I thought they butchered this. It's got a very similar like kind of art style from that. The art style is actually a little bit better, but I thought it was gonna be very similar, and boy oh boy was I pleasantly surprised. Now I am a die-hard Asterix and Obelix fan. I grew up watching it. My dad got me into it. It's somewhere in my room. There's a box where I have like these little figures, like Asterix and Obelix figures, with the fishmonger, the guards, the chief with his shield, Asterix Obelix, I can't remember the drone. I can't remember his name. The guy that mixes the potions. But yeah, anyway, I love Asterix and Obelix, so I fully intended on making this review, and I honestly thought I was gonna talk shit about it. But like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. It is actually pretty good. Like they did a good. I think they did good. I don't think it's as good as what the old stuff is, but they did well with it, in my opinion. I thought it was a good mini series. So the plot of it is essentially Caesar, who's in charge of the Romans, is fed up that he can't get this small village in Rome. It's the only village that he doesn't have under the control of Rome. So this young girl that's like part of like some numeral, I think it's called a numeral, like team. They showing Caesar this new thing, and he's complaining that the guy who came back failed again to capture the village. And she suggests, hey, I looked at, like, I'm fascinated with their culture and their past, so why don't you challenge them to a big fight? Get one of the chiefs that you from the villages you've already taken control of, and get them to challenge them, but make sure you capture the druid so they can't make the magic potion anymore. And essentially what happens is they do that, but Asterix and Obelix catches them in the act, and Obelix makes a mistake and he throws a boulder that way, and it hits the druid. Again, I forgot his name, and he loses his memory. And the whole plot is essentially they need to prepare for this big fight against Caesar without magic potion. So the chief is not, he can't fight who they've selected. He doesn't believe he can beat that guy without the magic potion. So Obelix, which they do have an episode where they show you the backstory and why Obelix is so strong. If you haven't seen like the past stuff, essentially Obelix, what he does is he falls into the magic potion. That's why he's not allowed to drink any more magic potion. Only the rest of the village is allowed when they get attacked. So yeah, they have a whole episode which I think they do very, very well with that, showing like what happens, and that it is actually Obelix who makes the potion by accident because he thinks it's soup. So he adds stuff to improve the flavor. But yeah, anyway, where did I stop going? I had a little brain fart there. So yeah, anyway, so they show that, and then Obelix becomes like the chief to fight. But Obelix has like a very big fear of public speaking. When he gets to the event, he has to do a public speech before his fight, and you guys can piece together without me spoiling it what happens. And essentially, they kind of fight a little bit, and then they try to gain control back of their little village. That is kind of, it's a very simplistic story, which is good. It's not like something crazy or too much things going on. It's very, very simplistic. They kind of keep to what Asterix and Obelix has always been about, which that's why I kind of was a little bit shocked and quite surprised. They do throw a little bit of modern day stuff in there, like with paparazzi and selfies. There's jokes that they bring in there that I actually think works. For example, they have like this red carpet thing for Caesar. It's very much like a Hollywood kind of red carpet thing. Caesar steps up, and then there's the guys who are technically paparazzis, who like want to take photos of him. So like modern day photos, you see all the little flashes and celebrities just kind of pose. In this movie, they use stones and they're kind of like chiseling to try and get a stone made thing of Caesar, and that's kind of like photos of Caesar. And then with the selfie thing, they do these murals where they use stones to make pictures of someone. So the one guy who is Caesar's champion that's going to challenge the village says, "Oh, Caesar, can I get a quick mural with you?" And they stand there, and you see the guy with the pebbles in the bag placing it very slowly. I thought that was super funny. Yeah, it seems like those jokes kind of landed. Then there were jokes that didn't really land. Like for example, they chosen champion when they show him at his village. He does jokes like naming people, like social media stuff. Like he names one guy subscribe and views and stuff like that. Like those jokes are kind of stupid. That was like a miss for me. But most of the jokes that they use like modern day influences. For example, there's like a little reference to Thor, when the villagers are getting ready to fight without the potion to defend themselves. One of the guys who I think he's the blacksmith, he pulls his hand out and like a Thor kind of hammer falls into his hand, and that's kind of like a little fedora tip to Thor there, because he does kind of look like Thor. So, but yeah, overall I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I surprisingly enjoyed it. Like I said, what I would give this out of 10, I actually think I'd give it a solid 7. I don't think it's as good as the old stuff, but it is a decent watch. If you're an Asterix and Obelix fan, I definitely think you should give it a watch. Like I said, not as good, but it is good. And yeah, that's going to be it for Vicious Views. See you guys on the next one. Peace.